Les Gold put everything at risk and almost lost it all. The king of pawn turned his Detroit shop into a reality TV empire, but things weren't as easy as they seemed. There were betrayals by employees, money problems, and a deal that was so shocking it made news all over the world. While Hardcore Pawn was off the air, his story didn't end. What really happened next was very different from what fans thought would happen. What did Les Gold do after all these years? Les Gold built a hardcore pawn on chaos, big people, and even bigger deals. But no one thought the real trouble would start in his own shop. American Jewelry and Loan wasn't just a TV show, it was a family business and a high-stakes fight for cash customers and arguments. Les, his son Seth, and his daughter Ashley ran the business like a well-oiled machine. They had to deal with crazy customers, shady deals, and even the occasional fight. But the biggest betrayal came from the people they trusted the most, their own workers. You'd think that people who work in a pawn shop that is shown on national TV would be extra careful, right? There are security cameras all over the place. Their every move was being watched by the Gold family. There were millions of viewers, but some workers got too comfortable. One of them was the last person Les Gold thought he would see. We need to look back at one of the biggest scams in the history of hardcore pawn. An honest worker was caught stealing. Not just any worker. Joe is the security chief for the shop. Yes, you read that right. The person who was supposed to keep the shop safe was the one who stole from it. It wasn't just a few cheap items here and there, thousands of dollars worth of jewelry was taken. Les had a bad feeling about it. He set up a trap and left an expensive diamond ring in a very specific place, with just enough of a cover to make it look like it had been forgotten. The next morning, the ring was gone. Now, Les isn't the type to freak out. He knew something was wrong but needed proof. He then did what any pawn shop owner would do. That's when he saw it on the security video. Joe stole jewelry. He was caught on camera by the man he trusted with his business, his workers, and his family. Not once, not twice, but over several days. Let's be honest. Les might have lost it at that point. This person had been with him for more than 3 years and was like family to him. Instead of losing it, he was smart and called the police. He made sure Joe stayed in the store and pretended like nothing was wrong. That could have been the hardest part. Imagine talking to a thief while acting like nothing was wrong. That's what Les had to do because Joe would run away if he thought something was wrong, and Les wasn't going to let that happen. Joe went into the store like he did every other day, not knowing what was in store for him. Les was already setting the trap at the same time. When the police arrived and played the security video, Joe knew he was done as soon as he was called to the back. Now here's the crazy part, when asked, Joe revealed that he had stolen. There are no reasons or lies. He told the truth. This is where things really get crazy. He took a bunch of stolen jewelry out of his pocket. It was worth over $77,000. Let's be quiet for a moment. $77,000. Not just putting a few rings in your pocket, that's big theft. It was someone who had been doing it for who knows how long. The police quickly arrested Joe, and one of Les Gold's most trusted employees was gone. But this wasn't the first time American Jewelry and Loan had an inside job. In fact, the show showed a much bigger problem. Theft by employees right in front of Les's eyes. It wasn't just Joe, there were more. It felt like a punch to the gut every time. Ashley and Seth were very angry. They began to question everyone. Was there a bigger plan going on behind the scenes? How long had this been going on? Could anyone be trusted? Now, I have to say that working at American Jewelry and Loan wasn't easy. While the Golds were in charge, there were still ways for people to get ahead. Some workers got too comfortable and thought they could get around the system. But with cameras on every wall, it was only a matter of time before they were caught. And now things get even crazier. It wasn't just a TV moment. It happened in real life. In a later interview, Bobby J., a former employee of Hardcore Pawn, revealed that everything viewers saw was 100% real. There was no fake drama or acting. These thefts really did happen. Bobby said that the shop felt different after Joe was caught. Everyone was on edge. Everyone on the job felt like they were suddenly being watched closely. To be honest, think about it, Les Gold had millions of dollars worth of goods in that store, like diamonds, watches, high-end electronics, and more, that could be stolen in an instant if someone got too greedy. The Golds had seen everything. People trying to scam them, sellers being violent over low prices, and even fake police trying to rob the store. But when the threat came from their own workers, it hit them differently. However, this was only one of many scandals that rocked Hardcore Pawn. At the same time, something even bigger was happening that would shake up the shop, the show, and Les Gold's whole reputation. To understand how Les Gold became the fearless businessman that millions of people saw on Hardcore Pawn, we need to go back decades before the cameras ever rolled. American Jewelry and Loan didn't grow quickly. It wasn't just a lucky break or a smart investment. Years of hard work in a field where one bad deal could cost you thousands of dollars and where putting your trust in the wrong person could mean losing everything. He learned those lessons early on, and one of them almost killed him. Long before he was a TV star, Les worked in his grandfather's pawn shop in 1971. It was an ordinary day until it turned deadly. Around noon on December 31st, an armed thief stormed into the store. There has always been a lot of risk in pawn shops, especially in places like Detroit. They deal in cash, jewelry, gold, and high-end electronics, exactly the kinds of things that thieves want. If Les had ever been in trouble, this was it. But this time, things got worse in a way that would worry him forever. During the chaos of the robbery, shots were fired inside the store. Someone shot and killed a police officer who had been sent to the scene. Still another man died that day, changing what should have been a normal afternoon into a tragedy that Les will never forget. He was there and saw it happen. He wasn't hurt, but he knew from then on that nothing was certain in life. Everything could be taken away in an instant. Most people who go through that never fully recover. They live in fear and avoid anything even slightly dangerous. But Les didn't let it break him. Instead, he decided that he would never give up, never let fear run his life, and never let anyone take advantage of him or his business. That event changed how he dealt with people and even his own workers. Because of this, Les ran his store with an iron fist when Hardcore Pawn became very famous many years later. American Jewelry and Loan wasn't just a pawn shop, it was a huge business that did more business every day than some banks. Over 1,000 people came through those doors every day, with 600 to 800 new loans being made and 300 to 400 people coming in to get their things back. As much as that much work comes at you at once, there's no time to second-guess yourself. That way of thinking showed up in his personal beliefs. There was no going back once trust was broken. That's why it hurt so much when someone betrayed him after he had built up so much trust after living through one of the scariest times of his life. It wasn't from an angry customer or a masked thief. It came from someone he had faith in, someone he had given a chance, someone who worked behind the store counter. Les had always thought that people should be given another chance. He knew things were hard sometimes and that not everyone had a perfect record. This is why, over the years, he hired back workers who had quit under strange circumstances. Some were going through hard times and others had made bad choices, but if Les thought they were worth the risk, he gave them another chance. That's what happened with Amy and Rich, two workers whose return to American Jewelry and Loan had already caused problems behind the scenes. Amy had worked at the shop before, but the way she quit made Les doubt her dedication. It wasn't that she quit, she just vanished. None at all, not even a warning. She was there one day and not there the next. Les normally would have fired her, but her uncle, who had worked for him for years and been a faithful worker, asked Les to give her another chance. He agreed, even though he knew it wasn't a good idea. Seth, who was always the more skeptical of the two, strongly disagreed with the decision, saying that someone who had already left could easily do it again. Rich, on the other hand, had worked for the business for a long time. Les had taught him himself, and at one point he had full faith in his skills. But as time went on, things changed. Rich started making bad choices, and Les started to notice a pattern of behavior that made him uncomfortable. Still, he kept him going because he knew that hard work and experience would pay off in the end. What Les didn't know at the time was that these choices and second chances were about to fail in ways he couldn't have imagined. People who used to be loyal employees started cutting corners and making decisions that put the store at risk. Some of them even did things that would make Les question everything he had worked for. But the worst part was that it wasn't just bad management or employees not doing their jobs, it was about something deeper and more dangerous. For decades, Les Gold worked hard to make American Jewelry and Loan one of the best pawn shops in the country. It wasn't just about buying and selling, it was about staying in business. He had seen the industry change, adapted to each challenge, and turned a single store into a chain with multiple locations that served over 1,000 customers every day. It wasn't until 2010's Hardcore Pawn that he became a real-life pawn star. But with fame came more attention. Behind the scenes, things were getting worse. It wasn't just for TV when Les, Seth and Ashley fought. There was a real power struggle in the family. Seth was eager and always looking for ways to bring the business up to date. If he thought it was the right thing to do, he would sometimes make deals without telling his father. Ashley, on the other hand, wasn't as involved with running the shop every day, but when she was, she didn't think twice about challenging her dad and brother. There were real fights and competition between Seth and Ashley, and it felt like the family was about to break up at times. But Les never lost control. He had been through too much to let family problems or betrayals by employees upset him. He had lived through an armed robbery and seen people lose everything in an instant. He knew that the only way to win in this business was to keep moving forward. Even after Hardcore Pawn ended in 2015, he didn't slow down. American Jewelry and Loan was still doing well, and Les and Seth were still running the business. The show may have ended, but the business wasn't. Unlike some reality TV stars who went away, Les Gold stayed a big name in the pawn industry. He wasn't as active on social media as his son, but he was still very much involved in the business. Most of the public-facing work was done by Seth, who often broke down famous moments from the show on TikTok and sometimes brought Les in to give his opinion. At this point, Les had built a huge business. He was a businessman with several locations, hundreds of employees, and millions of dollars worth of stock. His estimated net worth was around $3.5 million, which showed how hard he had worked for decades and made smart business choices. But even though he was successful, rumors began to spread. It had been going on for years that strange online stories said Les Gold had died. Fans were confused when these fake death rumors spread on social media, making them wonder if their favorite TV pawnbroker was really dead. Each time, the rumors were shown to be false, and Les was still alive and well and running the business that made him famous. But as time went on, the pawn shop started showing something much more troubling. Not only were they trying to sell unique items, keep workers in line, or avoid heated arguments, they were trying to stay alive. Survival for real. In the past few years, American Jewelry and Loan has seen a clear change in the types of people who come in. People who wanted to buy, sell, or get cash quickly were always welcome in the shop. Les saw that a trend was getting stronger. More and more people weren't coming in to make money. They weren't selling collectibles, rare coins, or expensive jewelry to get extra cash. Instead, they were pawning everyday items to get by. Pawn shops used to be a last option for people who needed cash quickly for an emergency. A sudden car fix, a medical bill, or an emergency that needed cash quickly. But Les says that's no longer the case. He now sees customers who aren't worried about next month or even next week, they're just trying to get through the day. Many of them come in desperate, pawning their engagement rings, family heirlooms, and even their tools, the things they need to make a living. Pawn shops have always been known as street-level economists by Les. When people are having money problems, pawn shops are often the first to know about it, long before the big banks do. And the way things look now, things don't look good. The change is huge at his 8 Mile store in Detroit. There are twice as many people waiting to borrow money as there were waiting to get their things back. This doesn't say as much about what's going on. No one has the money to get their things back. They're pawning their goods to get by for a short time, but they can't afford to get them back when the time comes. It's not just Detroit either. Les has talked to pawn shops across the country, and they all say the same thing. People are bringing in electronics, tools, and even clothes that wouldn't have been thought pawnable 10 years ago. The economy may look stable on the surface, but for millions of Americans, things are much worse. It's not just buyers who are affected by this change, business itself is too. Usually, pawn shops make money by selling goods and giving loans. But now that more people are pawning than buying, there is an unbalance. The resale market has slowed down, and shops like American Jewelry and Loan are hanging on to more items than ever before because buyers aren't coming in. Loans are still a steady source of income, but they come with some risks. Even so, Les keeps doing what he's always done, he adapts. He's been through economic downturns before, but this time he sees something different. It's not just a recession or inflation, it's a big change in how people are living their lives. As a short-term fix, they are no longer going to swap shops. They're holding on to them for dear life. The stories that tell everyone why hardcore pawn was such a big deal in the first place, the strange, surprising, and sometimes unbelievable things that come through the door. Les has seen a lot of strange things over the years, from old artifacts to high-end sports cars. But one of the scariest things he has seen is a van that used to belong to Dr. Jack Kevorkian, also known as Dr. Death. Kevorkian was notorious for his controversial role in assisted suicide cases. And Les knew this wasn't a normal deal when someone with his car came into American Jewelry and Loan. In the beginning, the seller wanted $40,000, but Les was able to buy it for $20,000. Was it worth it? Probably not in terms of selling value, but it was worth it to own a piece of history, no matter how dark it was. Les spent time doing things other than work. But he also had a soft side. He was known for being tough when he was bargaining. He worked hard for the Heat and Warmth Fund. Thaw is a charity in Detroit that helps low-income people pay their heating bills. Over the years, he used his fame to raise tens of thousands of dollars for charity events that helped his community. Even though he wasn't on TV anymore, Les was still a big deal in the pawn industry. He wrote a book called For What It's Worth, Business Wisdom from a Pawnbroker, which became a New York Times bestseller in 2013 and gave readers a look at the business world from the point of view of someone who had spent his whole life learning it. Even with all of this, Les Gold is still the same person he always was, a businessman. A peacemaker and a winner. Most pawn shops are no longer on TV, but American Jewelry and Loan is still going strong, and Les is still at the heart of it all. He doesn't give up, walk away, or slow down.